All right, Rich Casanova and
Craig Williams
here for another episode of the Buckhead Business Show, being brought to you by the Buckhead Business Association. You can visit their site at buckheadbusiness.org, and we're right here in our Buckhead studio.
Yep, I guess that's where we have to be.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
If it's in the Buckhead studio.
Be odd if we were in Cartersville, whatever, yeah.
Yeah,
so,
you like Cartersville.
Oh, yeah, I'm telling you.
Some history. We're going to have to start a show.
So if you're tuning in, whether you're locally here in Atlanta, where we're live broadcasting, live streaming around the world on the internet, you're tuning in to the show, as we mentioned, broadcasting on the Pro Business Channel studios here in Atlanta. And let's go in and jump into some great conversation. We're going to be talking to some folks.
Tracy Neal and Glenn Gordon.
All right.
Hi.
And we also have Steve Ackenborough.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to be here.
So this is going to be, we got a dynamic duo here with Tracy and Glenn.
Yeah, let's go ahead and start with Tracy and Glenn here. So y'all would mind to introduce yourself and let us folks know a little bit about yourself before we jump into the business topics at hand.
Sure. I'm Tracy Neal. I'm a mom of 3, an entrepreneur, innovator, and author. My company, Tracy Neal and Company, focuses on helping single-parent entrepreneurs, specifically focusing on single women, from ideation to execution and launch.
Wow.
And according to your bio here, you're also the VIP Women of the Year, Circle 2014-15?
That's correct.
Wow.
Yes.
And you have a Master's of Science in Project Management. That's what we need as a project manager person, right?
Yep.
I do.
And we need some of that Harvard blood in here. She's got a little, she's an active contributor to the Harvard Business Review discussion group.
Just an amazing backstory and bio. We'll post that all on our show notes. But
Thank
one thing
you.
that intrigued me, I was reading ahead of time, is you have 2 copyrights and 5 patents.
That's right.
I do.
Talk to me about that.
She's no joke, man.
Yeah. I
Business is her middle name.
I'm working on one of those, yeah.
Yes.
But tell me about your those 2 points.
Yeah, I have some apps, a couple of applications that I've patented, as well as some health and wellness yoga equipment that I've patented as well.
Okay.
And I've also written a children's book. That's my Super Mommy.
Oh, nice.
It was written up by the New York Times as well in December
Wow.
of 2014.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
And now you've arrived at the Pro Business Channel.
Now I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm ready.
So, Glenn, what's your story?
Well, where can I begin? Well, I'm Glenn Gordon. I am ex-military. I was a drill sergeant in the military.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're more than welcome. I'm also a songwriter, singer, musician,
Oh, really?
and I'm an inventor also, and I'm a patent holder, and I have 2 inventions that I have patents on, and I also try to help people with their businesses and teach them about copyrights. I also a couple of copyrights and music publishing company, and
Some serious innovators in the room.
Oh,
here.
yeah.
I'm telling you, one day I'm going to get a patent when I grow up. But
We're
So-
working on it.
So, Steve, talk to us about your. I mean, I'm looking at your information. Wow. I mean, you are a huge history in the food industry, right?
Absolutely.
Talk to me about some of that background.
Yeah, I've been extremely fortunate in that I started out flipping hamburgers for McDonald's and washing bathrooms back in London.
But not at the same time, though, right? Yeah.
I mean, it just depends on how busy it was. And I took the time to save up all the money I made doing that and send myself to college. Got my undergrad in marketing and then proceeded with a full scholarship right from the European Economic Union.
Wow.
To complete a master's degree in information systems. And then subsequently, I went through all the different ranks in McDonald's and rose to executive level in South Africa and then
Really?
United States. And then based on the success that we had achieved as a team back in California, I was headhunted out by Domino's Pizza to become the executive vice president for all the franchise operation restaurants, everything west of the Mississippi, about 700 restaurants, 200 franchisees, and almost $1 billion in revenue.
And he, too, is an author. So we've got nothing but authors in the room. We got to hurry up and finish your book, Rich.
Yeah, I know. I got a lot of.
man.
All of a sudden, my to-do list just got really loaded. Thanks, y'all. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
absolutely, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about my book. So, once I made a transition out of corporate America, I took about a year off, and in my quiet time and just kind of trying to, figure out my transition. I believe we all go through 3 stages in life. There is the first half, and there is halftime, and then there is second half. And as I was going through that halftime and spending some quiet time, strategically reflecting on, how I want my second half to pan out, I really got the inspiration that having had almost 30 years in the corporate world, I felt like I wanted to give back before I, kicked off the second half. And so 50 Promises came to light as a way to provide hope and inspiration for those who may be in the trenches today, still flipping hamburgers and looking for hope and inspiration, and perhaps asking themselves if there is, a future in whatever it is that they were doing. I started out, quite frankly, when I was 12 years old, selling, helping my mom to put food on the table by selling stuff on the streets of Africa. And it never crossed my wildest dreams that one day I would be in the United States, having been an executive vice president for a Fortune 500 company, and accomplish everything that I've accomplished. So I felt that it was critical to help folks understand that it doesn't really matter where you are today in your journey of life. There is hope, and where you are today is not your destination. It's just a transition point. And that's what 50 Promises is all about. Some of the key, promises that we have been given that, has been proven time and again that if you do your part, there is a way and there is an opportunity in front of everybody. And so that's what prompted that. And so I took the opportunity then to look at some of the faith-based strategies that has helped Steve Attenborough over the last 28 years as I transitioned from Africa to Europe, back to South Africa, now in the United States, and wrapped that a lot of those stories and my narrative around a lot of those promises. So I would definitely encourage everybody to get a copy on Amazon.com.
Wow.
Have the belief that they can make it. There is a lot of negativity out there today. And, folks letting us understand that, we don't have a lot of role models, especially, when you branch out into the African-American community. We have a lot of us in the athletic, and sports community. But when it comes to the business world, they want to make us believe that, we're just not seasoned enough. We're not smart enough. And I want folks to understand that, look, that cannot be true. It cannot possibly be true, because today, we have the highest rate of African Americans that are educated in the United States in the history of this country and in the history of the world. And there's a lot going on across every community if folks would take the time to, dig deep and take the time to understand what's happening out there. And it's not just in the U.S. It's happening across the African continent. It's happening in Europe, and it's happening in Asia at the same time. So confidence that you can succeed. Once you have the confidence and the inspiration and the hope that you can make it, everything else falls in place.
And that confidence comes from seeing those examples. It's a trust. Confidence has a lot to do with trust. And if you don't see it, you can't. That's where the faith comes in when you talk about faith.
Yes.
It's very important. So as a consultant, and I think that consultants and coaches are going to be the most important part of business in America and abroad to help encourage and be great influences to help that persistence of growing forwards.
Absolutely. Faith is great, and I really want to emphasize on faith. But before we get there, all right, hope is the foundation of faith.
Yeah.
Because you don't have hope, you can't
build on it.
Take the leap of faith. So you've got to start right there, and everything. Yeah, that has been my evidence.
Yeah.
And so
a wise book speaks of that. I've read once before. Faith being the substance of things hoped for. So
that's right. That's right.
The evidence of things not seen. It's something like that.
Right.
You're right.
We'll move along.
Yeah, hope. That's a leap of faith for those women to step up in that role. What are some challenges there? But what are some accomplishments or some progress?
I'll give you an example. I was at one meeting. Sheryl Sandberg was actually the speaker, and she asked a group of women who would want to be the CEO of this company, and maybe 2 hands out of 200 raised their hands. And it was not because of their education or their experience. It was the fear.
And the confidence, lack of confidence.
Yes,
yeah.
Standing
trust
out
that they were,
and putting yourself out there. With Onboard, we're making progress here in Georgia. It's slower than we would like, but it's happening because that confidence is there. And we have men who are part of that organization, too, to encourage and empower women to step out on faith. Well, actually getting leaders from some of the Fortune 100 companies here in Georgia volunteering, male and female, to mentor these women to get there, because you can't just go into the board. You got to be prepared, right? So actually getting more people to volunteer to mentor and coach. Those numbers are going up.
Let's talk business strategy here. That's on the short list for a lot of folks. So anybody can jump in here. Glenn, Tracy, what are some giveaways or points on the idea of business strategy?
Glenn, let's hear from you.
In the military as a kid, but when I came out, I was looking at the fact that when I come out, everything will be just perfect for me because of all the military training I have gotten.
To be all organized and
Right, because I mean, in the military, I was trained to be a leader. I was a drill sergeant. So,
wow.
And we lead by example.
Yeah.
So when I got out here, it was a rude awakening for me. No one was interested in the type of training that I had. You know, they had nothing, didn't want anything to do with me. So one thing led to another, and I found myself having to create an avenue for myself to try to survive out here. And I ended up being homeless 3 different times.
Wow.
I ended up being homeless 3 different times because I stepped out on faith, like the gentleman was talking about earlier. I stepped out on faith. I had tried so many different jobs, and it just wasn't panning out for me. So I said, there has to be a better solution to this. So after doing a lot of praying and really actually putting myself out there, and eventually I found my calling for what I felt that I needed to do. I had to regroup and reach back into my inner self and take all of that military training that I had. I needed to take that to survive out here because I try to make that leap into what civilian life was like, but it wasn't working for me. So I had to go back and take my military training to bring me forward.
Wow.
And
Share with us your calling then.
my calling was to look deep in my inner self and wake up the little boy that was in me.
Yeah.
And the little boy that was in me was all these different things I used to do when I was a kid.
Right.
And I looked at it and I said, you know what? I'm seeing people that's inventing things. They're writing music and they're playing instruments. These are my childhood things I used to do when I was a kid.
Right.
I'm saying, like, how can these people make a living at this? And they have to be trained to do that. And it comes to me like a second nature. That is my makeup. That's what's in my DNA. These are the gifts that God had already gifted me with. So I went back and I started nurturing that. And I nurtured those gifts that I was gifted with. And taking those gifts that I was gifted with, that's what I used to catapult me forward. So what I did, when it got into a point that I ran into a roadblock, I didn't stop there. I went into the next talent that I had that I was gifted with. And what I tried to do is always kept myself prepared for opportunity. Because when opportunity knocks, you don't want to say, well, you know, I was doing that. Give me like 2 or 3 months. Give me about 2 or 3 months to catch up. No, you got to always be prepared for opportunity. So when this is not working, just transfer over and have a little diversity in your way going forward. But just try to make certain that everything kind of ties into one another. You don't want to be too far off base with what you're doing going forward. So in my case, I was doing music. I was doing inventions. I was doing copyrights. I was doing publishing rights, and all of those tied in together because all that has to do with intellectual property.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what kept me going forward. Trace and I work together. I prefer this, if you don't mind, Tracy.
Okay,
Tracy.
cool. You can find me on www.tracyneal.com. If you want information about consulting or, IP, you can reach me at info@tracyneal.com.
And you can also reach me there with her if you want to get in
Okay,
touch.
cool.
Yes.
You can just contact me through Tracy.
And then we're both on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. So
Perfect. And we'll have all that in the show notes as well.
cool.
Steve?
Yeah, I can be reached at steve@harvestglobalconsulting.com. And I can also be reached on LinkedIn. I primarily check my LinkedIn a lot. I'm very active on LinkedIn. And by all means, you can also reach out to me via Facebook as well. So those are the platforms that I can easily be reached at.
Awesome.
All right.